It's about high time we get back into these types of videos. Because the 2023 NHL Entry Draft has come and gone, many of the trades that we had seen over the past few months, years even, have finally been finalized. They're complete, they're set in stone, and assuming we don't have any extra trades with these players in the foreseeable future, the trade trees are now done. Let's head back over to the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals, when the Montreal Canadiens played off against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, it was a weird matchup how the Canadiens ended up in the Western Conference Finals and eventually made it to the finals in the first place, but one of the guys that was being very highly touted in this playoff run was Ben Chiarot. The guy didn't score any points. He had 2 points in that 22-game playoff run. Even in the regular season, the guy had 7 points in 41 games. He was never really a point scorer, but when it came to what Ben Chiarot was capable of doing, alongside of Joel Edmondson, Shea Weber, and Jeff Petrie, these big four top defensemen could go out there and just make life difficult for the opposition. Marc Bergevin had a plan, and that plan allowed this team to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, carried by their young offense, their clutch defensive shutdown first line, and a defense core that made it difficult too. Not to mention Carey Price, doing what Carey Price has been paid to do this entire time. He is phenomenal, and there is no changing that. He was as much of a part of the finals run as everybody else. But Ben Chiarot was seen as this very strange asset, because he was very valuable. People saw that this guy, even though he couldn't really produce as many points as you would like out of your top four defensemen, he was a shutdown beast that would just physically torture a position. There was really good value out of what Ben Chiarot provided the Habs. And as a result, you saw in 2022, the next season, a bidding war proceed for this guy. Now, he had 18 points in 54 Canadiens games before getting traded in 2022, and he eventually got sent over to the Florida Panthers, who were the President's Trophy winning team. They unfortunately lost in the second round to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Ben Chiarot's time with Florida came to an end. His contract expired, it was a short-term rental deal, nothing more beyond that. However, it's been a year since that trade was made, and because of some of the draft picks that have been sent around in that trade, the trade itself has not been finalized until the conclusion of the 2023 draft, which is what we're going to be talking about here today. Let's talk about that Ben Chiarot trade, the return, the prospects, the picks involved, what those picks became, and what the Canadiens ultimately did with some of those assets. Now, just a little bit of a, let's just say, update on Ben Chiarot. Yeah, the guy signed with Detroit, he did his thing, he was very poorly received by a lot of Red Wings fans after one season's worth of play, but he did get a lot of points though, 19.76 games. Not an amazing point per game, it's actually lower than some of the other Habs seasons he had, but it's something. Either way though, when the Montreal Canadiens traded Ben Chiarot to the Florida Panthers, they got themselves a pretty good haul in exchange. Take a look at this. Ben Chiarot got sent over to the Panthers for Ty Smilanic, the signing rights to this player, a 2022 4th-round pick, and a 2023 1st-round pick. Now, let's go over each of these assets before we dive deeper into what actually happened. Ty Smilanic is a prospect that was initially drafted by Florida. His rights belong to the Habs. He is unsigned and currently playing with the Wisconsin Badgers in the NCAA. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, last time the Canadiens had a Wisconsin Badger, he turned out to be pretty alright. That was Cole Caulfield, right? And while that is the case, it's unfortunate that Ty Smilanic, who was an NTDP graduate and eventual Quinnipiac University player, he hasn't had that same level of success that Caulfield had at all. This was his 3rd season in the NCAA this previous year, and in 14 games played, the guy only had 2 points, which, I mean, for a center, that's really not what you want to see. He's 21 years old, he's 6'1", 174. He was a lot better at producing with Quinnipiac, but of course Quinnipiac is not Wisconsin, so it's a little bit of a different system. A lot more time for adjustment is needed here. We'll see what Smilanic is able to do as he proceeds with his Wisconsin Badgers career. But on top of that, the Canadiens also got themselves a 4th-round pick in 2022, that in which was the New York Rangers' 4th. They used this pick to select Cedric Guindon out of the Owen Sound attack. He's 19 years old, 5'10", 170 as a left-handed left-wing center, and after being drafted by the Canadiens last year, he put up a 69-point total in 68 games played. Pretty nice amount of points if I do say so myself. This is what the scouting report reads on Guindon. He's got intelligence, not tools, and these aspects drive his game. Without fail, he gets open. In the defensive end, he supports battles and builds speed underneath the puck. In transition, he skates his routes to backed off defenders, but he also changes his route if a pocket of space emerges. He's a pretty versatile player with the puck. And even though he doesn't have the best tools in the world, he's smart enough to create offense through his positioning and where he's able to place pucks. Now, of course, you love to see the point production increasing, but at the same time, this is a player who is heading into, I believe this is going to be his final season of NCAA eligibility. No, actually, I think he's got one more year after this, so even though he's unsigned right now, he's a 4th-round pick from 2022. What are you going to expect out of a guy who was drafted so deep into the draft and drafted so recently? At the end of the day, though, Cedric Guindon is a nice prospect to have in the system, but that's not even just it. Because along with Smilanic and along with Guindon, the Canadiens also got themselves a 2023 first-round pick from the Florida Panthers that ended up being 31st overall because they made the gosh darn finals this previous year. But you know where the story goes from there. The Canadiens did not actually select the 31st overall pick. They traded this pick along with 2 other things away to the Colorado Avalanche, receiving Alex Newhook in return. Now, we've already done our song and dance about Newhook. We've talked about this guy a lot over the past few weeks because I very much like Newhook. I like this player. I've been a fan of his ever since he was a Victoria Grizzly, and then when he went over to Boston, it was awesome. Seeing him with a Canadian sweater on is going to be magnificent, especially if he's able to live up to that potential, that in which has not been fully discovered yet. But if all goes right with Newhook, you're looking at a very speedy and skating dominant forward in the middle of your lineup. Somebody who could just take over shifts with his speed, and if he maxes out to his top tier potential, I would not be surprised if he is a first-line caliber player. He might not ever be that with the Habs, considering Nick Suzuki's got that position on lock. You also have other centers like Kirby Dach in the system too. But for Newhook, I like this player a lot, and the Canadiens shelling away the first-round pick that they got from the Ben Chiarot trade to get Newhook, I can live with. Alongside of that first, though, the Canadiens also sent prospect Gianni Fairbrother to Colorado, as well as their own second-round pick in the 2023 draft. We'll talk about the pick later, but Gianni Fairbrother is a guy who's a pretty low-key defender back in the WHL. He produced a lot of points, he had a really hard slap shot, but you didn't really see too much growth out of him year to year in the dub. He was a player taken by the Canadiens in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft, and I actually do remember making a video about Gianni Fairbrother back when he was drafted. Eventually, though, he played with Laval, and this previous season he only had 7 points in 25 games played. Definitely not the most confident AHL season you could get out of a guy. But either way, he is still young. He's young enough that you could justify waiting a little bit more for him to maybe round out as a potential bottom pair defender at the National Hockey League level. But the fact is, it's the Colorado Avalanche's problem now, as the Canadiens traded Fairbrother away for Alex Newhook. Alongside of Gianni Fairbrother and that first-round pick from the Florida Panthers, the Habs also traded away their own second, which was used by Tampa Bay, not Colorado, to select Ethan Gauthier. This is because the Lightning traded away Ross Colton, and the Avalanche gave Tampa that pick. Now, Gauthier is a really intriguing player, especially if you're from the Quebec area, because this guy is actually American. He was born in Phoenix, Arizona, but eventually made his way over to Quebec, where he played the majority of his youth hockey. This season, he had 69 points in 66 games played for the Sherbrooke Phoenix. Again, a very nice point number. 30 goals, 39 assists. This is what the Elite Prospect Scouting Report says. He acts as the link between his teammates' plays. He one-touches the puck to them in transition and helps move the puck from lane to lane to break in the offensive zone. And there, he keeps the puck in control of his teammates and improves the dangerousness of the offense by winning board battles, passing through and around defenders, and by rushing the net to tip shots and get his stick on rebounds. He's a very versatile forward that Lightning fans should be excited for. And they were able to get the pick to get this guy in exchange for Ross Colton. But of course, we are finally missing out on one final piece. The Florida first that was sent over to Montreal in the Chiarot trade, which was inevitably sent over to Colorado in the Newhook trade, was 31st overall and used by the Avalanche to select Mikhail Gulyayev, a very mobile left-handed defenseman out of Russia. Now, I like Gulyayev a lot. He played in various different Russian leagues and tournaments over the past few years, but essentially what you're getting is a very speedy, very mobile defender who's got some pretty good defensive gap control and a boatload of potential. If he's really able to expand on that skating heading into the next levels of play, there's no telling where Gulyayev could end up 4 or 5 years down the line. He's an Avalanche guy now. The Canadiens had the opportunity to take him, but they decided no, we'll just trade the pick away for Newhook instead. This is the return finalized for Ben Chiarot. The Habs essentially traded away Chiarot, Fairbrother, and their second-round pick in 2023 in exchange for Alex Newhook, the signing rights of Ty Smilanic, and Cedric Guendon. Pretty tidy piece of business if I do say so myself. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.